So I have something of a product review for you today, something new and different. I've tried it a couple of times. I have some thoughts on it, but I thought you might be interested in hearing about it. JIVA Coffee Cubes. If you're interested in knowing more about these JIVA Coffee Cubes, stay tuned. Okay, so the story behind these JIVA Coffee Cubes is I was at the Nova Scotia Bushcraft Annual Gathering in August, just a month ago. And a friend of mine, one of the other organizers on the Bushcraft Committee, Rob Young, brought a product to us that he had given to him as samples from the company out of the United States, and it's JIVA Coffee Cubes. I'm going to provide more information about JIVA Coffee Cubes in the show notes below, rather than take up all the time on this right now. But suffice it to say, it's a relatively new product to the market. It's not brand new, but I think it's new to the bushcraft community. And basically what it is instant coffee. But what sets it apart from a lot of the instant coffees is a couple of things. The quality of the coffee, and it is a high-grade Colombian, Arabica bean Colombian coffee that has been made into instant coffee and combined with panela, which is a cane sugar, and they use the panela or cane sugar to bind the coffee into a cube form. So this is one of the cubes, the one I'm going to be using today. So it looks like a solid block about just over an inch long, just over half an inch wide, and yeah, so a cube about that big. So the concept is this is instant coffee. Now, those of us that were at the gathering that have YouTube channels were all given some samples of these things to take home and try and to do videos on. That was the agreement, is we'd do video on. And the agreement was, like it or hate it, that's what we'd put into our video. So, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm a bit of a coffee snob. Admittedly, I like good cup of coffee, and I will go through the work it takes to make a good cup of coffee. If I have the time, I will actually bring green beans into the wood, roast them, grind them, and then use my Aeropress to make what I consider the best cup of coffee possible. You know what, though? That is a lot of work. I don't mind telling you that's a lot of the work. So some of the things we're going to be evaluating this on is convenience. Because truthfully, if I'm out for a hike, I don't always make my coffee with the Aeropress. And I know that sounds like heresy to some of you, but there are times when I will make instant cup of coffee. Usually for reasons of, I just don't have the time. I have to pack up quickly and get on the road, and I don't have the time to make up one with the other form of coffee maker. Having said that, though, it's really not all that inconvenient. I don't always roast beans, but I like to bring fresh roasted coffee, ground coffee with me in the woods, and I can set up and make a cup of coffee with the Aeropress very quickly. So, measuring against the convenience of that, the JIVA Coffee Cube is much simpler. And I say that because it's instant. You drop it into a cup, you drop hot water on it, and you wait till it dissolves, and then you've got a cup of coffee ready to go. So, in comparison with a cup of ground coffee using the Aeropress, it is a little bit more convenient. And it's small, compact. I don't need to bring the Aeropress with me, just my cup, my water, and my spoon to stir it, I guess, and that's about all. But let's look at it and compare it against something else. My standard type of instant coffee that I bring with me all the time, don't have it often, but I have it with me all the time, is the Starbucks Via. And I'll put some close-ups on the screen of this as well. And if you watch my channel, you'll know I like a dark cup of coffee, a nice, rich, dark roast, like a French roast or a Sumatra or something along those lines. Those are what I prefer to drink. I don't often drink the lighter cups of coffee like the Colombian. But in order to compare apples to apples, that's what I brought with me today. This is a Via Colombian. Now, Via instant coffees are also made with Arabica beans, which is the higher quality bean, and they're made from the Colombian bean in this case. Via does something a little bit different, or Starbucks does something a little bit different. It's a combination of instant coffee combined with a powdered or super finely ground regular coffee. So those two things together are intended to make up a better cup of coffee. What I have noticed, though, is when I make a cup of coffee, quite often I get a little bit of grounds in the bottom of the cup. It's not something I taste, it's not something I feel when I'm drinking with it, but there is a little bit of grounds in the bottom of the cup that have to be rinsed out. No problem at all. This is my go-to instant cup of coffee. What I want to do is compare the JIVA against it. So I have my water, it has come to boil, it is just off boil. I'm going to put the JIVA in the cup, stir it up, and then we'll have a taste and see what we're going to do. The one that I have that I'm testing today is the classic non-sweetened. So they do have a classic non-sweetened, they have a classic sweetened, and they have a number of them with flavors. So they have, I think, hazelnut, vanilla, a number of different flavors. And I understand there's even now a dark roast coffee, which I'd love to get my hands on to give it a try. But this is the one we're going to use today. So this is a Colombian coffee, non-sweetened. Now, non-sweetened, but remember, this is formed into a block using cane sugar. So there is a little bit of sweetness added to it. The question is it as good, better, or just different than the Via? Well, let's see. So, the cup I brought out with me today, on the surface, not very bushcrafty. It's a ceramic mug, but I had to bring this out and share this with you today. My friends on the organizing committee at the Nova Scotia Bushcraft Association made this mug for me in light of my cancer diagnosis, and they made this and sent this to me, and it just means a lot to me, of course. So that's what we're going to use today out here in the woods. All right, let's make some coffee. So the directions for using the JIVA cubes is that you place the cube in the cup or place water in the cup, either way. It's intended to use 8 ounces of water. I have about 8 ounces here. And you wait 45 seconds before you stir. Now, honestly, do you have to wait to stir? Or can you just start stirring right away? I'm going to start stirring right away. It does take a minute for the cube to dissolve anyway. So, in comparison to the Starbucks Via, is it more or less convenient in terms of preparation? Well, the Starbucks Via, if I was to put that in a hot cup of water, it dissolves instantly. I don't have to wait for it to dissolve like I do this cube. Actually, the cube is pretty... Oh, no, it's still there. It's dissolving, though. Truth is, though, if you're going to put it in a cup of very hot water... Now, the water I just had, it brought to a boil, came off boil, so it's not quite a full boiling water. That's probably your best. Now, don't leave it very long or it'll cool off for you too much. But it should be just off a boil to get the best flavor. I drink mine black, so even if I did that with the Via Instant, I'd still have to wait for it to cool down a little bit. So the length of time it takes for it to cool down is probably the same 45 seconds to a minute that it takes for this to dissolve in the cup. Alright, I'm not coming up with anything left. Well, it smells like a cup of coffee. That's a good start. It tastes like a cup of coffee. With a couple of twigs in it. Okay. My personal favorite is going to remain the Via. And the reason being is not that this is not a good cup of coffee, but even in its unsweetened form, it's too sweet for me. Some people will enjoy that, I'm sure. Some people will want it even sweeter than this. But it's the way that the JIVA cubes are made with the vanilla cane sugar, and they're bound together. If you enjoy a sweet cup of coffee, then by all means, this may be what you want to have. I don't. I like a nice black, rich, dark cup of coffee. And this is that, but just the added sweetness that I prefer not to have. So, do you know, it's interesting. I've watched my friends, the other YouTubers, do their take on this, and everybody has their own opinion. Everybody likes coffee their own way, and that's expected. We're all different people. I'm not saying mine is a better way of liking coffee or not. I tend to think it's the best way of making coffee, but I know not everybody wants to go through the trouble or the work that I go through to make a good cup of coffee. But for an instant coffee, this is a good choice if you like a sweet cup of coffee. Now, there are other flavors. As I mentioned, there is the hazelnut, the vanilla, and a few others as well on top of that. Keep in mind that they are all sweetened or unsweetened, depending on which one you choose, with cane sugar. So it does provide a nice sweetening. It takes a bit of that bitter edge that some people find on coffee, or at least that's the way they describe coffee, as having a bitter edge on it. It takes that away right away. But there is no creamer with them. So Starbucks Via, for the small ones like this, they are a black cup of coffee, the way I like it. But I know like a lot of people prefer to have something with cream and sugar. What are you going to do? Well, if you choose the JIVA cubes, the sugar's taken care of. And like I said, some of them are sweetened, so they're sweeter than others. But you're going to have to add something 2-year mix. Ah, it fell out in my bag, and I'll find it in a second. So a choice for people, and I carry it with me, and I've mentioned this before, has been instant skim milk powder. And I can have that for a cup of tea, because I do like my tea with milk, and I know that's heresy to some people, but I do like my tea with skim milk in it, so I have used that. But you know, I'm finding that it doesn't last that long in my backpack, and it tends to, I don't know if it goes rancid or go bad, but I'll add it to a cup of tea and just have it all clump up and float to the surface, and the cup of tea is ruined. An alternative is the commercial coffee creamers, like Coffee Mate. I don't think there's any real milk in that, or real cream in that, but it is a whitener, we'll say, and it has a sweetener in it. It's not something I prefer to have. I did pack or buy some. I bought some loose from the bulk barn here in Halifax, packaged up in very tiny Ziploc bags. I am carrying them in my lunch bag now for guests primarily. People who like to have milk and sugar with their coffee, if they'll take this. It's not for me, but it is an option out there. Starbucks has done something a little bit different. You can do that, add the coffee creamer to it, or you can buy Via with a mixture in it. I've had some nice flavors. Now, they're not my preferred cup of coffee, but on days that I want something sweet and hot, this is not a bad way to go. They have pumpkin spice latte, they have mocha, they have a number of flavors, and it has the milk and sugar added to it, as well as the other flavors that go along with it. So that's another option. All I'm doing is pointing out that there are a few options that you can have and still have an enjoyable cup of coffee. Okay, back to the Jeeva. Final thoughts on Jeeva? Well, let's close this up with a few final thoughts. Okay, just before closing up with a few final thoughts, I thought I'd give you another close-up of the box that the Jeeva comes in and tell you where you can get it. And there's one last aspect of comparing this against the Starbucks Via that I think is important, at least to point out. It may not be important to you, it's not especially important to me, but it is something that you should consider, and that is cost. So the Starbucks Via costs, on average, $1 a cup for the instant black coffee. Now, the flavored ones are more expensive than that. I don't know the cost of them. I could do that comparison for you, but they're not something I buy on a regular basis, so I don't have a lot of experience with them. What I have found is that the JIVA Coffee Cubes, and I'll give you the close-up of the box that I did bring with me. And again, I'll provide more information in the show notes below, but you can go to JIVACubes.com and find out more about these. There's another sample that was given to me with an individual packet and some instructions on the back of it. This one is the classic sweetened with instructions how to use it. This is not the way they're packed if you buy them in bulk. They're packaged like that first one with just that minimal bit of cellophane. This is just the sample one that has a little bit more information specific to that flavor. Yeah, these ones are about $1.50. Where can you get them? You can get them directly from JIVA Cubes by going through the website and purchasing it and having it shipped. I don't know about shipping to Canada. I believe it's free shipping in the United States. In Canada, there's likely going to be shipping that you'll have to pay on top of that, possibly even duty, I'm not even sure. But I can tell you that you can buy these on Amazon as well, certainly on Amazon.com and on Amazon.ca. In fact, that's where I made my price comparison. So on Amazon.ca, if you worked out a per cup cost for Jeeva, it is about $1.50 per cup. So half again as expensive as the Starbucks Via, and a little less convenient to purchase. Is that an issue? Probably not. If you like this coffee, then you're going to buy it on bulk, and you're going to get a better price than that $1.50. You can actually get sampler boxes and get all the different flavors until you find the one you like, or just to have a variety on hand, maybe for other people that are along with you, or have them at home. That's what these were originally marketed for. They were marketed for home use or office use, for convenience. They can be stored and readily brought, made a cup of coffee with at the office, or anywhere for that matter. Any more convenient than the Via? No, they're not any more convenient. Any less convenient? That's a matter of opinion. You have to wait for these to dissolve, but then again, since I drink my coffee black, I have to wait for it to cool down a little bit anyway. Any better tasting? That I don't think I'm qualified to comment on. What I will say is that they taste different than Via. The coffee flavor is good in these. The fact is that they have sugar, and for me, that's just, I won't call it a deal breaker, it's just not going to be my preferred cup of coffee. Overall, it's a good product. It's well worth looking into, especially if you like a sweet cup of coffee. Then this may be the one you want to look at. Otherwise, Via is the one I prefer and the one I'll continue to carry. Now, I understand there are more instant coffees available on the market than there used to be. Not the kind you get in the grocery stores, but one available only online. I am going to do a little research on those and see if I can't get my hands on a few of them, and maybe we'll do another comparison in the future. Okay, without extending this video any longer on a simple cup of coffee, that's all I think I need to say. If you have experience with this, or any of the other instant coffees that you can compare against this, I'd be welcome to hear what you have to say. But that's all I'm going to say about JIVA Cubes for now. But until we see each other again, why don't you get out and explore in the woods like I'm doing today? Take that path less traveled. It will make all the difference. Bye for now.